Okay, we're back. Episode 8 of Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Let's talk. Where I'm talking about ancient Greek literature and history and myth as I'm playing through Assassin's Creed Odyssey. So, in this episode, we're back with Odessa helping her with some dispute she's having. And I figured it's probably a good opportunity to come back to Odysseus and discuss this idea of Odysseus as an epic hero and what that really means. Because yes, Odysseus is clever and cunning and on one hand a role model, but there are certain customs that he doesn't properly follow. So we can really question whether he is fit to be a hero or if he is more of a crass materialist, a pathological liar, and a squanderer of his men's lives. But let's get into it. We're back here with Odessa, so this seemed like a good opportunity. Good place to talk about Odysseus again. And I'm going to revisit Odysseus and the idea of him as something called an epic hero and what that means.
Cassandra, I haven't seen you since you took me to the ruins of Odysseus.
Odessa, you remembered.
How could I forget? You told me to live my own life and care less about someone else's greatness.
Looks like you're taking my advice.
I've been forced to take care of my sick father, so no, I've had no chance to live the life I desire.
I've seen a lot of people, but you're one of the most beautiful I've ever met.
Is that so? You're a welcome distraction from my problems.
I've been told I'm great at being a distraction. I'm sure you have a bed inside we could use.
You get straight to the point, don't you?
I'll show you how to the point I can get.
I'm sure you will.
So how about it?
You know, I'd love to, but I have a couple of things I need to pick up for my father first. If you helped me, then we could maybe continue our conversation.
Don't worry, I'm here to help. What do you need?
A few herbs from the Valley of King Lelech nearby. Also need a mixture from the market to combine with the herbs. There's a merchant there holding on to it for me.
Is your father really so sick you can't get them yourself?
I'm his only child. I'd rather be close by, in case he gets worse.
Do you know what's wrong with him?
No, only that he's not getting better. The mixture and herbs I need may help with the pain at least.
If he dies, all his land will be yours, right?
Yes, but I'd sell it anyway. What better reason to leave everything behind and truly begin my quest, like Odysseus?
What's your connection to Odysseus?
I'm a descendant of his. I'm named after him too.
Stay by your father. I'll be back with the herbs and the mixture.
So, what epic hero means in this case is far different from the way that we use epic as a word today. And it's quite difficult to understand because the two words, really, epic and hero, have quite ambiguous natures. But essentially, an epic hero seems to be some sort of a protagonist who exists within the constraints of the narrative. So for this case, Odysseus is the epic hero of the Odyssey, and he only really exists truly as an epic hero in the Odyssey. Much in the same way that Achilles was an epic hero of the Iliad and only really truly exists properly in the Iliad.
Those are the herbs Odessa needs.
And the hero
Let's go.
is used often to represent contextual customs rather. Odysseus, it can be argued either way. He could be considered a good epic hero, or he can be considered very problematic. Throughout his journey, it much becomes very apparent that he is a pathological liar, he is a crass materialist, and he does squander his men's lives. Bearing in mind that at the end of the or rather at the beginning of the Iliad, he left with like all of his men. And by the end of the Odyssey, he's the only person left. So he's lost like, I want to say 700-800 men over the 20 years. And he's supposed to be their leader? But anyway, there are a couple of instances in the Odyssey that really, for me, bring to light the issue that Odysseus is deeply problematic. And they are when he meets the Cyclops, Polyphemus, when he visits the Phaeacians towards the end of his journey, and when he is on Circe's island. Because here we can see some issues about his behaviour that sort of question whether or not he is such a great leader. But it's important, I think, to remember that an epic hero is someone who captures and reflects the social customs of the time. So we're talking about the 8th century BC. And I would say 5th century Athens, because of how old some of these texts are. They were rewritten, or rather, they were retold so many ways, and things were included in so many different places to reflect lineage and history. So somebody could say, like Odysseus is saying here, that her lineage comes all the way from Odysseus himself. Which is why I think it's important to remember some of the 5th century Athenian customs that could go into the retelling and reading of the Odyssey.
Ella.
So, the initial integrity and honesty of Odysseus, I think, is questioned when we see him fabricate his story and his background and origin over and over again. And throughout the Odyssey, Odysseus's tales and the lies that he weaves become more and more elaborate, which definitely raise questions about his suitability as an epic hero who embodies favourable customs and cultural aspects.
Tell your friends, tell your family. The best wares drachmi can buy. Even mercenaries like you can find something.
Odessa sent me.
Ah, of course. Sweet girl. I wish she had stopped by herself. This is for her father, I imagine? I'll take the payment and you can be on your way.
Odessa told me she'd pay you later.
I don't give away items for free.
You wouldn't be. She said she'd even pay you extra for your trouble.
Okay, but only because it's her. Make sure she stops by soon.
So, the issue about Odysseus lying. So when he visits the Phaeacians, he needs to recount his story, because this is towards the end of his travels, when they're going to give him a boat and send him on his way back to Ithaca. And he visits the queen and makes his plea, right? But he retells his story in a way that we haven't seen. Like, he literally makes it up. And it makes sense, like, he doesn't know these people, he's lying, he's keeping his guard up because of all the trouble that he's been through, fine. But the issue about lying to a host like that is that it disregards a concept which was very, very important in the ancient Greek world, called xenia, which is guest hospitality. And this concept goes two ways. So there's a responsibility upon the host to treat the guest respectfully, not ask any questions until the guest has been fed and bathed. But there are also ways that a guest is expected to act, namely, not lie to their host. And by doing this, Odysseus
blatantly disregards this very ancient and very important custom. And Xenia is such an important custom that Zeus himself oversees this. Zeus himself protects guests and makes sure that Xenia and guest hospitality is followed.
These men work for the leader of Megaris. Seems like Odysseus has been causing some problems
And
for them.
the issue with Odysseus' line about his origin, here and in many, many other instances, is that he, as part of this Xenia, after hosting a guest, it's expected that the guest would repay this by stating his name and his lineage and his reasons for why he's visiting. By Odysseus refusing to tell the truth, he sort of spirals towards this pathological liar characteristic, and it's as if the only thing that he's interested in, the only thing that he's driven by, is a compulsion to get home. And it seems a bit weird, like these people want to help him get home, right? So why does he need to fabricate any story? Instead, it's almost as if to lie by this stage is something that Odysseus takes great joy in. And this view reduces him to nothing more than a pathological liar. And that's certainly one way to look at it. Certainly one way to read Odysseus lying to the Phaeacians who ultimately want to help him.
Are the herbs and mixture okay? You did get them, didn't you?
That's what you're worried about? We were just attacked.
Surely you should be used to that by now. Random bandits litter these lands. What did that letter you were reading say?
That they were after you and only you, not me.
I can't believe it.
Looks like it deals with your father's estate. They probably want you and him both gone, so they can take it.
I could have died. Without making a name for myself. I'd never be worth anything at all.
I won't let anyone hurt that face.
No pain, no glory.
How about you take me inside and show me a little pain?
Oh, how I would love to do so. But this news... Someone aims to kill me. How could we possibly ignore such a thing for pleasure?
Then where does that leave us?
With a task at hand, clearly. Think what you must, but I can prove the truth to you. I just need your help.
I'm not surprised. I'll let you know if you can have it.
But of course, this is ancient Greek literature, and as with any sort of ancient literature, there's so many ways to read into things. And I think at this point it's important to consider some of the cultural norms that are being emphasized at the time. Because there are many instances throughout the Odyssey where us as the reader are presented with options and instances in which traditional Greek values are adhered to by Odysseus. And the way they're presented to us lend credit to this idea that Odysseus can be regarded as someone who follows Greek customs very highly, and so isn't a problematic epic hero anyway. And we can read into this personality as an apparent practical liar, as actually the author or the poet Homer displaying a highly regarded Greek custom of intelligence and wit. Because
how can I help you?
Thanks for looking. Jeremistios.
this queen that Odysseus is appealing
Off we go
to,
now.
Queen Arete, is a descendant somewhere along the line of Poseidon. And of course, Poseidon has been hounding Odysseus ever since. He even left for his journey, but particularly more so after he attacked Polyphemus, the Cyclops, who I'm going to get back onto a bit later, because there's another prime example of Odysseus disregarding Xenia and acting as a bit of a hypocrite. But for now, Odysseus, he must surely be aware that he is speaking to a descendant of Poseidon in Queen Arete. And obviously he doesn't want to retell his story and say, oh yeah, by the way, Poseidon is after me because I've annoyed him. So he does need to change up his story and make it seem like he is deserving of help and that he hasn't done anything wrong and that Poseidon's vengeance against him is completely unfounded.
Are you ready to find the whole truth of what's going on?
Always.
I knew you would. You already believe they're after me, and you're right. I want to have proof in my hand saying why.
The truth always comes out.
It will. And then I can finally follow in the footsteps of Odysseus.
Don't the stories of Odysseus mention how great of a lover he was?
Do they? I must have missed those.
You said you wanted to be like Odysseus. We could do better than that.
We will talk more about us once this is all done. First, the note you found was from the leader of Megaris. There has to be proof of what he's up to.
If there is, it would be at his home.
Then go there.
I'll find the proof you need.
Good. I want this whole thing to be over.
Do you have any idea what I'm looking for?
The leader is the most powerful man in Megaris. I can't accuse him of anything unless I have proof that he's after me.
Let's say I do find the truth you're looking for. What next?
Then I'd tell everyone who would listen. The leader wouldn't dare kill me or my father once everyone knows their plans.
I'll be back with proof, whatever it may be.
Now, I can't speak much about 8th century,
I should head to the leader's house to
the
find out what's
ancient
going on.
8th century world and the values that they treasured and held very highly. But for the 5th century, this cunning and this wit and this intelligence, that was something that was favoured. And it was favoured to such an extent that schools were set up and sophists or teachers and philosophers would teach things like how to speak well, so rhetoric, and how to turn a phrase, and how to use intelligence and wit to get your way. Kind of like early day lawyers. So yeah, it's a pretty key attribute that was being emphasized in Athens at the time, and it was definitely one of those attributes that helped the Athenians distinguish themselves as Athenian compared to barbarian or even Spartan. because Spartans aren't clever, barbarians aren't witty or cunning, but Athenians are. So anything that emphasizes that was highly sought after. And turning towards Polyphemus and the Cyclops scenario, situation.
That's the place.
It's
Any
during
proof to be
this
found
book,
should be there. I'll need
or
to be
this
careful.
chapter if you
This
want to
place
call
is
it,
heavily
that we
guarded.
really see Odysseus' intelligence shining through. Not only, I mean, in the first case where he decides he's not going to kill Polyphemus until they're out of the cave, because he recognizes that Polyphemus is the only one strong enough to move the boulder that's blocking them. But during this whole scene, it's a very cleverly designed situation for Odysseus to really show his cunning and his intelligence. So, when Odysseus introduces himself to Polyphemus, he introduces himself as no one, Utis, Greek. Which demonstrate his wit, because when Polyphemus then complains that he's being attacked, and he's saying to the other Cyclopses on the island, no one is attacking me, they just think, Polyphemus, you're drunk again, go back to sleep. And Odysseus can sneak away, so that's very clever. But if we read into the language a little bit more, and I'm not going to claim to understand Greek language very well, I struggled with it when I was learning it, but
The leader of Megaris tried arranging a marriage
the
for Odysseus.
Cyclops,
Sounds like an
they
easy way to get her
respond
father's
to
estate.
Polyphemus using the conditional form of Utis, which is metis. And they say, well, if nobody is harming
This
you,
letter claims that Odessa hired other
then leave us alone.
mercenaries. I
Now,
wonder why.
metis is the conditional form of Utis, but it also means cunning. So it's a bit of an ancient pun, really, for the poet Homer to be using this, because he's using metis in the sense of the conditional response, that nobody is harming you, but also the word metis means intelligence.
This letter mentions Odessa's estate and how crucial it is that they get it. By
So I hope
any
that's
means
I hope
necessary.
that kind of makes a bit of sense in demonstrating his intelligence, and why, in the understanding that an epic hero is a hero who reflects some of the cultural norms, that Odysseus might actually be an alright epic hero.
One of Odessa's suitors died mysteriously shortly after meeting her.
Sticking with the Cyclops scene, we are also introduced to this idea of Odysseus the materialist. And we can see how Odysseus manipulates the concept of Xenia even before he meets Polyphemus, because he says to his men that he would like to see what guest gifts Polyphemus would spare them. So he's already going onto the island and he's already meeting Polyphemus with the idea that he's going to get some sort of gift out of it. And when they're on this island, even before sort of checking to see who might live here, Odysseus and his men, they kind of go around eating and drinking and laying waste, ravaging basically Polyphemus' stocks of wine and meat. And they behave as poor guests as they feed on Polyphemus' food. So in this way, Odysseus isn't really any better than his suitors who he kills, who do the same sort of thing, who eat his food and try to woo his wife. because he's gone onto this unknown island. He's not bothered to check it out to see if anybody lives here. He's just seen some food, seen some wine, started eating, and gone in with the expectation that he should receive gifts. But his actions aren't frowned upon here. And even though he acts in a similar way as his suitors, and even as Polyphemus the Cyclops, Odysseus, is rewarded for attacking Polyphemus. And he's rewarded for purging his palace of his suitors.
I think I have enough to go on. I should
So he's
return to
definitely
Odessa.
a very hypocritical character. And once again, there's this idea that he's a problematic epic hero, because this isn't the first time, and this isn't going to be the last time during his voyage home, that he will disrespect Xenia with what seems to be a material desire in mind. And sticking with the Polyphemus story, because there's another very important aspect that comes out of this. It's that when Odysseus leaves, after he's blinded Polyphemus in the eye, and he's managed to escape, hiding under some sheep, so again using his intelligence, he turns back to Polyphemus and he says, "If you want to know who attacked you, know that my name is Odysseus, son of Laertes," and he gives him the whole lineage. And now Polyphemus has a name. Now Polyphemus can go to his father Poseidon and tell him what Odysseus has done,
The leader of Megaris is after Odysseus'
which really
estate,
sets
and
Odysseus'
he's trying to
journey
arrange a
back
marriage
by
for her to take
years,
control of it after her father dies.
because he's trying to get home by sea and he's annoyed the god of the sea, which is not very clever, is it, Odysseus?
Returned. I hope with good news.
Before we get serious, how about we finally have some fun?
I think I can spare a little bit of time.
I plan on taking a lot longer than that.
I feel so relaxed. Now give me some good news so my mood can stay like this.
After everything I found, I know what's going on.
And what's that?
You don't deserve any of this. You're only trying to live your life.
Of course I am. I've done nothing wrong. I just want to have a healthy father and to start my journey.
You can start that after we have a little fun.
I feel like I'm still recovering from the last time I slept with you.
It was worth a shot.
So that's it then. I guess there's nothing else to do.
It doesn't have to be goodbye. Why not join my crew?
Well, you were always on my side. Plus, getting away from here would be nice.
Great. What about your father?
He's been feeling a lot better, thanks to you.
You aren't worried someone will come after him?
I'll be sure to share the information you found with a few people. They won't touch him so long as we have it.
Then I'm happy to have you aboard.
But actually, Odysseus risks a lot by not telling Polyphemus his name, because he's living in a world where, in order for him to gain this idea of a homecoming, a nostos, he needs to be remembered. And throughout his journey home, he does face so many circumstances and situations where he could have died and his fame and glory would have gone unnoticed. So, big thing in the Iliad is this idea of chaos, of glory, and it's because these demigods understand that they have the strength and speed and
Trouble if I'm spotted here.
all the attributes of a god, except for the immortality. They will die, so they need glory in order to be remembered. In the Odyssey, it's much more human in that it's all about getting home.
Hello there. Need some help?
Is violence the natural state of humanity? Is there such a thing as peace? Or are there simply moments between attacks?
I prefer fighting to thinking about fighting. Get to the point.
Oh, of course. A strong leader dies and weaker, meaner leaders rise up. The commander of the nearby camp has become violent and tyrannical. He and his soldiers should learn a truth or two.
And you want me to kill all the Athenians?
By Zeus, you do that for me.
You can count on me.
Many thanks, mercenary.
Leave it to me.
For the Greek hero then, to be unsung is to be as good as dead. To be unremembered is a worse fate than to die on a battlefield. And Odysseus puts all this on the line when he says to Polyphemus that his name is no one. So when he leaves, he has to let him know what his name is, because he needs people to know his story. And it may not be a smart move, but it makes sense.
Come on.
And so it's easy to see Odysseus as a noble, epic hero in this way.
Come on.
Now, another key thing for Odysseus is that he's a leader of men. But yes, he bargains his name and his life. He also bargains the life of his own crew. He also foolishly squanders their lives. And when he arrives in Ithaca, he's completely alone. It's easy to see Odysseus as an agent to scenes of death and destruction. Every time Odysseus visits a new place, he brings uncertainty,
Try to stay out of sight.
order, and he brings pain. In every instance, someone dies. Death is involved in some form. Either he loses his crewmates, or he kills someone. When he's on Circe's island, his decisions, he's never the one to suffer the consequences or the ramifications of his actions. It's his men that suffer this. So when he's on Circe's island, his plan is to feed his men and then send them out to scout rather than him. And you would expect that to be his responsibility as a leader of his men. And he doesn't just impact the lives of his sailors in negative ways. As a foreigner, he interrupts the order and structure of the lives of those he visits. So, when the Phaeacians agree to sail Odysseus home to Ithaca, they met with the horrific fate due to Poseidon, because Poseidon still held that vengeance. And Odysseus, of course, did not tell the king and queen that Poseidon was hounding him. So these sailors weren't to know. They just sailed Odysseus in Ithaca and died on the way back. Odysseus is reckless in his attitude towards those that have helped him, and he's uncaring once he's manipulated others through his lies and deceits, and he's gotten what he wants. So a very interesting story about that doesn't happen in the Odyssey,
Ella.
but it happens in a play, Philoctetes by Sophocles, where Philoctetes is bitten by a snake and Odysseus decides to leave him on an island. And then it turns out that Philoctetes carries Heracles' bow, which is prophesied to be vital for success at Troy. So now Odysseus has to go back and trick Philoctetes into joining them again, joining the Chians. He didn't really care for Philoctetes.
You're back. Have you killed them?
I took care of them. Every last one.
Excellent work, my friend. Please, take this.
Happy to help.
He only cared because he needed him for success.
Come on.
Now, my views of Odysseus have changed so many times. When I first saw this as a quote, I argued that you can't blame Odysseus really, because you can't hold him to the standards of the 21st century. You have to view him in the standards of the 8th and the 5th century BC. Doing this now, I still think he's a bit of a problematic character, to say the least.
Off we go now.
What's your hurry?
Come on.
How can I help you?
Okay, so that was a bit of a rushed finish. But just to conclude, I'm basically trying to say that my opinions of Odysseus changed so much. And right now I'm thinking, yeah, he is an epic hero. If I had to come down hard on one side, I would say, yeah, he's an epic hero because he does embody the majority of the customs and cultural norms of the time, albeit not to the T. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I'm not sure what I'm going to do my next episode on, but stay tuned because it will come sometime. See ya.